Let's go over to NXT. They had a pretty noteworthy show on Tuesday night with several appearances that got a lot of attention. Number one was the reveal of Roxanne Perez's opponent for Battleground, and it was revealed to be TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace, who came out to a huge reaction at the Performance Center, and they kept this very, very quiet. And Grace came out. This was the follow-up from her Royal Rumble appearance this past January, so can't even say like this was totally out of left field. Like this was a return. The Royal Rumble inclusion got over really well, and they have set this match up for Battleground that I think a lot of people are going to be intrigued by, and they're going to do a kind of match with Jordynne Grace on next Tuesday's show with Stevie Turner as well. But before we get to the other reveal at the end of the show, I think this is great for TNA. I would say
it's great for both of them.
It's for both. Like it's something refreshing for NXT, I think, to have that, and it's a fresh match. And this crowd, they took to it like this was a major match that you are getting. So I thought it was. And for the TNA side, I just think this is completely
massive,
a positive for TNA to have this kind of attention.
Yeah, I really love this move, and I love the promise of more of this interaction. It's to me a real win-win for both companies. You know, obviously for TNA because of, you know, the heightened exposure for one of their own talents and just their brand itself. You know, like we saw in the Rumble, this is not really the same company that would even like in, you know, like they are treating the person coming in from another company with reverence. They're treating her like she's a big deal because she's the TNA Knockouts champion, you know? So I think it's great for TNA, and I think it's great for NXT, you know? Like, can you do this with the main roster? Yes, maybe
you could. There's no restrictions.
You could, but I don't know if like Jordynne Grace, like, you know, challenging like coming up and challenging a Becky Lynch or like, well, I guess at this point, Liv Morgan. Like, I don't know if that would resonate as well with like, you know, like a WWE main roster crowd. When you're talking about like an NXT crowd of like diehards who will like easily already look at somebody like a Jordynne Grace as like a superstar, like a holy shit level type of superstar. I think she feels like a bigger deal here. And I think it's NXT kind of playing more to that hardcore demographic, you know, which is kind of how it was really built on, in being able to facilitate their own little forbidden door, taking some of that, you know, conversation away from being exclusive to just the New Japan and AEW, for instance. So it's making NXT feel like that much more of an interesting, unpredictable show. And obviously it's been great for TNA as well.
What if they had done this segment instead of Stevie Turner? That Ariana Grace comes out and says, "I'm the only Grace around here, and I want that TNA Knockouts title."
Okay,
and then Santino Marella comes to sanction a TNA Knockouts title match on either program.
Depending how deep they want to get into that interaction, I could see Ariana Grace making an appearance on Impact. I think that would be awesome. It'd be a great little.
I wouldn't acknowledge the father daughter.
I would not.
I would actually just do it as like the if you know you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a lot of great potential.
NXT and TNA, they could do some fun stuff with this, and I think it's like a good. You know, it every now and then to do something like this. I think it really, like you just saw from the audience reaction. Then at the end of the night, so for several weeks now, we have had the mystery attacker that have been taking out Noam Dar. Then we had Oro Mensah attacked, and Trick Williams has been accused of being the mystery attacker. Lash Legend coming to his defense, stating Trick would not do that. And so at the end of the night, we got the reveal. It was like this week between AEW and WWE, we had all these mystery attackers that we had to clean up all these angles with the assailants, and it was Ethan Page revealed at the end of the night, taking out Trick Williams and then hoisting up the NXT championship. So we know that Ethan Page, his deal had expired at AEW. He's in to WWE. And I think we even talked about this when his deal came up, that this could be a potential avenue for him. I feel Ethan Page is going to get a much better shake here at NXT. Namely, I think he's going to get to cut promos in NXT, which was something he didn't get to do a whole lot of in AEW.
Yeah, and I think we've seen, like, with anybody showing up from AEW so far. Like they've had more kind of focus as characters and more maybe consistent airtime, you could say. Even somebody like Alexis King, who I think you can maybe debate, in terms of how successful they've been. I think we can almost all agree that he's got a more focused character and a more focused presence on as a part of like the NXT roster than he did in AEW. To be honest, like I this one surprised me a little bit, just given maybe who they've been bringing back lately. Now, Sean Spears is maybe an exception because he seems to be coming in more as like a talent slash coach and maybe has sort of like longer term aspirations on the coaching side of things. I mean, that could be the case for Ethan Page as well, but he's not somebody who's already been through their system. He's somebody who's coming in seemingly now, at least as a talent. But then I'm also reminded of an LA Knight, somebody who came in like in his 30s, and look at the jackpot that they found in bringing somebody like him in, and what does he have in common with an Ethan Page? He can talk, and there's always going to be room, especially in a place like NXT, for guys who could talk like Ethan Page. So I'm very excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming in he's in a main event position right off the bat. So I thought it was a really entertaining episode just for some, that unpredictability factor that you have for NXT of doing some surprise appearances.
I'm sure you were loving the Sexy Red interactions throughout the show.
Sexy Red was all over this thing. Yeah. I mean, and she's going to be at Battleground on top of that.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed all that. Honestly, like this was a show that like felt unpredictable given its new debuts. It seems to be a show that is playing to, again, that hardcore demographic that is into wrestling, not just within the WWE, and doing a very successful job of it on this show. It's also seemingly playing to a much younger, hipper audience by bringing in buzzed about musical act like Sexy Red and having her be such a big presence on this show.
Yeah, balancing out the young and hip aspect was Charlie Dempsey going up to Damon Kemp. Capiche? What, I mean, what am I watching?
Well, that was him pretending to be
Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah,
I got it. It was just a very awkward segment, I thought, overall. But for Battleground, which is next weekend at the world famous UFC Apex, the updated card, we have Roxanne Perez against Jordynne Grace for the women's title, Shayna Baszler and Lola Vice in an NXT Underground match, which I'm curious to see how they do that at the Apex, if they can have give it more of a UFC feel when you're there. Like they should do it in an octagon if you can fit, but you can't fit that in a ring in there too. So
yeah, in the past, Underground has just been no ropes, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that? Yeah. So I can't see them doing that. I mean, can they change the set that much for one match? I mean, let's see.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they decorate this. Like, it's going to be about like 600-700 people that they can put in here. Obafemi, Wesley, and Joe Coffey for the NXT North American title. Nathan Frazier and Axiom against Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. I am dying to watch Luke Gallows and Nathan Frazier together. That to me is that's the pairing that I'm looking most forward to. And then the ladder match to determine the first NXT Women's North American Champion, Sol Ruka, Lash Legend, Fallon Henley, Jada Parker, Michin, and Kalani Jordan. I don't know what to expect from this match. You have varying degrees of performers in this match. You throw in a ladder into the mix. It feels like one of those feast or famine type of matches. They will. I imagine this one is going to be the most prepared in advance with these six, but
it's a chance. It's a chance for them to gain some buzz and potentially maybe steal the show. We'll see.
And I guess we'll see if Trick is not. You would think his match is going to be announced next week at some point to add on to the Battleground show. So anyway, that's coming up
Ethan
on
Page.
June the 9th. Yeah, I mean, it would seem like you're just going to quickly go to that match right away. Wei and I had this decision. Are we doing enough shows together? And Wei said, we are not, John. We are dropping the ball. So for the month of June, we are going to be staying up late on Wednesday nights. We are going to bring you Rewind to Dynamite. And then after the review, we are jumping over to the Post Wrestling Cafe for each Wednesday in the month of June to review that week's episode of Who Killed WCW. And after 4 episodes, This is going to be like the extended game of Clue. We're going to figure out who killed WCW. With what weapon, in what room. This is the new series that Vice is putting out. It will be airing Tuesday nights on Vice. And to kick off our coverage of Who Killed WCW, I'll be joined by Evan Husney next week. That'll be a free interview for everyone. And then our first review Wednesday night next week.